Hello there, ladies and gents, I'm Skippy, and welcome to part 2 of the two-part new episode of the Media Chronicle on the history of 4Kids Entertainment. Now, before we pick up from where we left off, I want to go over two things that I forgot about in part 1. First off, 4Kids had some really cheesy but catchy theme songs for their show, ranging from the classic Gotta Catch 'Em All for Pokemon that everybody remembers to this day, to the unfortunate meme creator of Gotta Go Fast for Sonic X, and hell, I even think that the stupid as hell One Piece rap is catchy, as well as Kirby Right Back At Ya's theme and its constant use of Kirby's name. I would like to play a bit of these theme songs to show what I mean, but I don't want to artificially lengthen out the video, so you should just give them a listen on your own time. And secondly, 4Kids had actually dubbed movies that are based off their licenses and have released a few of them theatrically, with those being Pokemon the First Movie, Pokemon the Movie 2000, Pokemon 3 the Movie, Pokemon Forever, Pokemon Heroes, and Yu-Gi-Oh! The Movie Pyramid of Light. So, now that we have those two little tidbits out of the way, it's time to finish the tragic history of 4Kids from 2005 to 2015. Now, 4Kids, as I said at the end of part 1, was doing extremely well for themselves, with Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Still running on Kids WB, and their bastardized versions of Sonic X and One Piece still making the rounds on the Fox box, which was renamed to 4Kids TV around that time. But that wealth and stableness came to a halt when their contract for Pokemon ended in 2006, which they weren't able to renew, as they got outbid by Tosh Productions, who had once assisted 4Kids with their dub of Pokemon during the earlier seasons, and apparently this was part of an elaborate plan by the Pokemon Company International, who wanted to breathe new life into the English dub of the show and to save money due to Pokemon's waning popularity in the US around that time. So with Tosh now owning the license, the Pokemon Company was able to carry out their plan of rebirthing the English dub of the series with their new voice actors, new music, and an entirely different production crew, which left 4Kids devastated, and it's not really surprising that they were. They had the property for almost 10 years at that point, and for it to just slip out of their hands just like that was a huge blow to the cast, crew, and the company as a whole. The show's spirit was gone, all the characters were reduced to cheap imitations of their former selves, and it was overall just the same show, but without any of the things that made it popular in the first place. I mean, the dub has gotten better over the years, but it still just doesn't match the actual care that 4Kids put into their dub, and still sucks to this day. But that wasn't the first license loss that 4Kids suffered that year, as on December 6, 2006, 4Kids announced that their dub of One Piece had ceased production, and though they didn't clarify exactly why it had been seized, it was confirmed that Toei had revoked 4Kids' license to the show because of their awful treatment of it, and on April 13, 2007, it was announced that Funimation had acquired the license to dub the show for television broadcast and home video. Now, while the loss of Pokemon was loathed by 4Kids and the community, the loss of One Piece was completely different, as 4Kids loved the fact that they lost the license to the show because, as I've already mentioned, they didn't even want it in the first place. So many sighs of relief were had by not only 4Kids themselves, but also by the fans of the show, who were happy that they were finally getting a true English dub of the show, which meant no more edits, changing, and awful lines like,
"Hey, what's the deal here? You looking for a pillow fight? Is that what you guys want?"
But regardless, 4Kids would still be losing money due to their loss of the license, which meant that they would seriously have to consider looking towards new endeavors and possible new opportunities for the properties that they still had, and their strategy that they ended up using to help them was to rerun Sonic X a whole lot despite it being over at the time, and continuing with the sequel series of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because aside from that, they really only had their more lesser known shows to bank on otherwise, and since they were never going to be as popular as Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Sonic X, 4Kids had to crank Yu-Gi-Oh! Out like wildfire and rerun Sonic X like there was no tomorrow. So that's all they did from 2006 to 2008, which might have given Fox some sort of message, as they decided to end 4Kids TV in 2008 for it to only be succeeded by 4Kids' second Saturday morning block the same year. Yup, instead of having the company move on to something other than television, they continued with what they knew best, as they took over the Kids WB programming block on the CW with CW4Kids, which only did the same shit that the 4Kids TV block did for its first few years, and I guess 4Kids seemed to take notice of this, as they decided to rebrand the block as Toonzai to hopefully rejuvenate their stocks and the viewers' interest. But what was truly the final nail in the coffin for the company and the block in general was when they decided to completely fuck with Dragon Ball Z Kai when it aired on the block. Despite not dubbing the show, as that was always Funimation's job from the beginning, 4Kids managed to shoehorn in their beliefs for children's programming into the show when it aired on the block, as they removed guns, anything that had to do with the motherfucking human anatomy, and made Funimation re-record massive amounts of lines to the point where they could only get Sean Schemmel to re-record lines for most of the male characters.
Let's give him a moment to clear this trash off the battlefield. Let's give him a moment to get his friend off the battlefield.
And then there's this promo for the show.
That's when Goku's old enemy Piccolo shows up. Now Piccolo's a Saiyan just like Raditz. Piccolo's a Saiyan just like Raditz. Piccolo's a Saiyan just like Raditz. Piccolo's a Saiyan just like Raditz.
They were bones. They were so fucking screwed at this point. They screwed with One Piece, they screwed with Sonic X, and now no one was ever going to use their name in a good way because of how they edited DBZ Kai. They danced around death, they danced around blood, and they just made it seem like every kid in America was a complete idiot, which they didn't even start doing till after Pokemon. They were really on their last legs, and everyone was so pissed that a once great company went and turned rotten like this, and let's just say, many people just wanted 4Kids to get their comeuppance in the end, which coincidentally enough, happened. And sooner than you might have initially thought. You see, on March 29th, 2011, TV Tokyo and Nihon Ad System sued 4Kids, alleging that the company had entered into illegal agreements with other companies like Funimation and Majesco about the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise, which allowed 4Kids to collect all royalties from the Yu-Gi-Oh anime dub and not pay a portion of it to TV Tokyo. And because of this, 4Kids and TV Tokyo were at war in court for months and months, to the point where 4Kids had to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection so they would be able to get out of bankruptcy after the whole ordeal. And once it all ended, 4Kids was stone cold bankrupt. It didn't matter that they had the Yu-Gi-Oh license or anything like that, because they were going to have to sell most of, if not all of their licenses in order to pay back their dues to the companies, which started on June 26, 2012, when after a long bidding process between 4K Acquisition Group and Saban, 4Kids sold the licenses for Yu-Gi-Oh to 4K and the rest of their licenses to Saban, which actually included their Saturday morning block on the CW. After that, 4Kids started to crumble, with many divisions closing down and important people leaving the company up until December 13, 2012, when they were sent on their way out of Chapter 11 protection, which then prompted them a few days later to reincorporate themselves as 4 Licensing Corporation, due to the fact that they were focusing more on licensing products in general rather than just TV shows. And just like that, the 4Kids that we all knew got what they deserved and were finally able to start a new path, and maybe that's where they need to stay. 4Kids was great when they started off, but as the years went on, they just started to deteriorate under their own feet, and it wasn't because of new people becoming in charge or anything like that. It was because they were just making the wrong business decisions, and their inflated ego was too big for them to actually realize it. We will all remember the joy 4Kids used to give us with Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and maybe some of their other properties, but all in all, 4Kids was really nothing more than a product of the time. So thank you, 4Kids, and despite your checkered past, I wish you luck on your future endeavors as 4 Licensing Corporation with all of your 2 licenses. Anyways, ladies and gents, that's it for now. I'm Skippy, and thank you for joining me on this 2-part new episode of the Media Chronicle. Also, 4Kids really wants us all to buy this fucking ISO Blocks thing. As long as it doesn't have any David Moo Sanji quotes on it, I'll consider it.
Coming up next, Dragon Ball Z Kai, 1 full hour, 2 out-of-this-world episodes. It's a 3-way crossfire. The good.
Better hurry!
The bad. The Dragon Balls are mine! And the ugly.
Your power pales in comparison to mine!
Dragon Ball Z Kai, 2 awesome episodes, 1 full hour. Coming up next on the CW4Kids. Tunzai!
Sonic! What are you doing here?
I heard you had one of the Foxbox broadcast codes.
That's right.
Set sail for One Piece.